Hey, welcome to Jeremy Snell's recruitment training. If you're looking to deepen your capabilities, if you're seeking to improve your productivity and your performance, this is the channel for you. In every episode, I will unpack practical and tactical things that you can do to help you to think with greater clarity, make better decisions, and ultimately make more money. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to like and to comment. And now let's get on with today's topic. Today we are going live with our AI agent / assistant build number 4 in a series of 5. For those of you who've been following along, each time we go live, I share an assistant that I believe is an assistant that can be built with ChatGPT that should be in the pocket of every recruiter. I'm sharing with you all of the prompts, everything that I do, everything that I showcase. You can access all of these materials, all of the content, all of the recordings, all of the PDFs, all of the materials associated with it. And today we are looking at the Sizzle Pack Builder. The Sizzle Pack Builder is the agent that will help you to be able to engage with those candidates who perhaps are ignoring the messages of other people, will position you so that you can represent your client with more skill, with more agility, and with more engagement to an audience who we might describe as being slightly risk averse, and perhaps those individuals that we would call the passive candidate community. So I will be sharing on screen ChatGPT. I'll be sharing on screen various elements of the assistance that we're building. I'm just making sure that I've got everything that I need in terms of prompts, because I'll also be sharing the prompts as well. Let's start getting into this, people. So in terms of this particular session, we'll be looking at this agent. We will answer any questions that you have. So as I'm sharing things, if you want to be able to get a bit more insight, a little bit more understanding as to what it is that we're doing here, feel free to ask, right? Because this agent that we're calling Nova helps you to be able to transition really quickly from an in-depth briefing with a client to having all of the outreach collateral at your disposal to help you to be able to use LinkedIn, to be able to use email, to be able to use the phone, to be able to build landing pages that represent the business and the brand, which is the client that you're working with. Whether you choose to do that overtly and you do it as co-branded, or you do it covertly and you prefer to keep the anonymity of your client, it's entirely up to you. What I see day to day is happening in recruitment businesses is there is a claim often from consultants saying, I need more candidates. You know what a weird thing is that people sometimes say? I've done LinkedIn. And if people say that they've done LinkedIn and they think that there is no one left to message, they might want to look at their searches. But also, if we think that we've done it and we've sent a list of people a low-hanging fruit type of message, which is basically saying, hey, you, I like your profile, I've got a job, what about it? Not everyone is going to want to get involved with that, people. So as a bit of history for you, for at least the last 5 years, as a business, we have been helping recruitment agency owners create differentiation from competitors, differentiation from other options that which may exist for clients, by being able to showcase, this is what we do, this is how we do it, these are the challenges that exist in the world today, to be able to capture the attention of human beings, to engage with them as professionals, and ultimately have a conversation about the benefits of being a candidate. Too frequently today, people assume because of your job title and your postcode and the job that I have, you are now a candidate, and they will call you a candidate. They'll do a search on LinkedIn and they'll search and say, look at all of these candidates I've found. Candidacy is a verb. It is a choice. And if we overtreat people as being a noun, like a candidate, and they're not, they would consider themselves to be an individual, we will miss more frequently than we hit. So part of the work that we've done with business owners in recruitment over the last 5 years is helping them to be able to build subdomains for their websites, to create their own versions of job boards, and also to be able to create landing pages that are dedicated for their end client. Landing pages which add so much more content, so much more color, so much more insight for the tiptoeing individual, the passive individual, to make a really strong, balanced decision. Is this or is this not something that I would like to explore? And what we've heard time and again from those business owners, this works. This helps me to be able to win more customers. This helps me to be able to engage with candidates that perhaps are ignoring others. And I've taken all of those thoughts and those ideas, and I've condensed them down into what I would consider to be a high value AI assistant, an AI assistant that goes by the name of Nova. You'll have seen that all of the assistants have got different names. And if I need to put my spectacles on for this, people. If I share with you, let me just stop that. Let me share this. Let me share my screen, and I'm going to share my entire screen. So forgive me for a moment, people. You'll get the typical kind of fractal moment. But if I then flip to the tab that I want to show you, if you've not registered here, join the hub. The hub is free. It simply requires an email address. And with your email address, you'll then get access to all of the content that sits here. The getting started guide on how to be able to define your tone of voice, how to be able to ensure that the AI tool that you use, your LLM in ChatGPT, actually sounds like you, and how to be able to build your own chief revenue officer that sits inside it. And then we have the 5 must-have GPTs. We've built Lyra, the buyer intent analyst. We can click here to download all of the resources. We have the replay of the video of Orion, the case study builder. We can click here to be able to download those. I created some bonus content about the power of selling with story. So there's an opportunity for you to understand the power of story, how to be able to find your voice and then feed that into Orion. And then last week we looked at the outreach message expert, which is Vox, and how to be able to build good quality outreach. So that brings us here. That brings us to Nova. Now, what you'll see in Nova, so this particular guidebook that I put together, this is the guidebook on how to be able to get the most out of Nova, how to be able to create the right types of prompts. It's important that everyone recognizes that this is a sophisticated assistant. I would consider it to be a little more sophisticated than some of the others that we've built, which is why the core workflow that sits inside it, the guidebook, is so important. If you simply grab the prompts and then start talking to it in your own natural language, you may miss the quality of inputs that are required. We're going to create outputs on behalf of our client and ourselves, which is designed to engage with other people. It's important that we feed it with the right information to build the prompt. So the essential prompt, I'm not sure if you can see this, folks, but it says here, phase 1, the inputs that Nova needs. And I've created a template prompt. It's important that you follow the template. The more accurately you answer the questions in the template, the more powerful the output is at the other end. If you are weak with the prompt, weak with the answers to the questions, the output will be weak. Does that make sense? So please make sure that when you grab this guidebook, you take that first prompt at 3.1, the essential inputs, and you turn that into a Word document, and you start to use that Word document as your guiding principle prompt, so that every time you ask Nova, hey, build for me a sizzle pack, she builds the right thing for you. Let me just stop this for a moment. So I'm back. Let me explain a little bit about this concept of sizzle packs, right? The sizzle pack is something that I first put together in the late 90s on behalf of a business that I was working at. And a sizzle pack used to be something I would pull together and put in the post to prospective candidates to bring to life the opportunity that they were considering it. And that was done in the post because that was the format. Today, in a digital world, being able to build landing pages, being able to create a multimedia, richer opportunities for candidates to be able to review and research, to make decisions about the level of curiosity that they had. Is it now turning into intent? And we will see more conversions. The concept is, you get a job description, from a client. That isn't going to sell a job. That's like a list of needs. it's a brochure about the day-to-day duties. It doesn't bring to life what is in this for me. Where is this going to take me? Why would this matter? Where would I be at for this to be exciting? And there are still today people who will talk to a candidate on the phone and say, can I send you a job description? They send a job description. Candidate doesn't come back to them. Recruiter starts to think that the candidate is being flaky, when actually what they sent to them wasn't particularly engaging and wasn't particularly appetizing. So the job description, it's the sausage. It's the sausage. And they say, sell the sizzle, not the sausage. Hence the title, Sizzle Pack Creator. We are creating all of the sizzle that is associated with the opportunities that you are working on. This is useful for you if you do perm recruitment. This is useful for you if you wish to be able to engage with more commitment and get exclusivity, or dare I say it, retainers. This is useful for you if you're a contract recruiter and there are particularly challenging contract roles that require a unicorn individual. This is useful for you if you're a temp recruiter and you are building out squads and teams or creating benches of individuals for a long-term solution to be able to provide a contingent workforce. This is where the juice sits. And when you can actually show a client, hey, let me show you a landing page that we built. Let me show you some of the collateral that we have developed on behalf of another client to increase engagement. Let me talk to you about the level of noise which is out there. Let me talk to you about some of the data that LinkedIn is sharing themselves that revolves around in-mail acceptance and the ever decreasing level of response rates. Let me tell you about what the recruiter naughty step means and what percentage of people have to ignore you to end up on the naughty step. Now, let me tell you about my own data. Let me talk to you about how I could help to improve and outperform the average recruiter with the average response rate, because this feels like a critical hire. So there's a lot of power, people, in being able to do this. I know what you're thinking. Jeremy, get on with it. Just show it to me, or get Kiosk Kev back, right? Maybe we'll get more sense out of him. So let me show you, right? So I'm going to show you a little bit of research that I did. Because I want to show you it working for real, I need to show you the mechanics of it. As a person who supports the recruitment industry, I didn't want to compromise anyone by using real job descriptions from real agencies, you know, and all that kind of thing. I wanted to show you something that was a genuine job with a genuine business that existed in the past. I'll show you how I did the search. I'll show you what I came up with. But if I go back to doing a screen share, we add this back to the stage, we avoid this little fractal thing. We've had a look at the platform. This is what I wanted to show you. This is an organization called the Vegan Society. The only reason that I ended up on the Vegan Society's website is because I did a search to find a job, and I wanted to find a job that was relatively content rich in terms of what it outlined in terms of person spec and in terms of job content. So I did a search which was file type :PDF, and then marketing manager and job description. So it just searched the internet looking for PDFs that had marketing manager, job description, and were available in open source. And a job that came back was this. So this job came back, which is the sales and marketing manager role that was advertised a couple of years ago at the Vegan Society. We can see that it's a pretty extensive job description. It appears to be fairly content rich in terms of its descriptors, in terms of the person specification. It gives me enough information that I could start to steer my AI assistant to help me to create the engagement content that I can now share with prospective individuals that I would like to encourage to consider candidacy. So when I go to my GPT, you can now see that I'm in Nova, the Sizzle Pack Creator. And in Nova, the Sizzle Pack Creator, I'm going to prompt Nova, and I'm going to prompt Nova with the exact prompt that I showed you that is on page 5 of the guidebook. And in page 5 of the guidebook, the essential inputs. Now, the inputs that are essential, that template, in good Blue Peter fashion, I'll show you what I have filled in the template that is based upon my observations and understanding of the Vegan Society as an organization, the role that they are seeking to fill, or were 2 years ago seeking to fill, and also the mission that the successful person would go on in terms of what they were expected to be able to achieve. I haven't spoken to anyone who works there. I didn't qualify the job. So what I don't have, that is also part of the prompt pack, is to be able to upload, for example, the AI note taker minutes from the meeting that I'd conducted. So I have a Word document, and if I go to my Word document, you can see here, this is the template that I've completed. If I just zoom in a little bit so you can see with a bit more clarity the words that I'm using. The prompt starts as per the book. Nova, I'd like to brief you on a new role and build a candidate persona first. Nova works best when you define the persona of person that you're after. And then from the persona and the agreement of the persona, we then start to craft the outreach content, which is the sizzle pack. So you can see the additional sources here. It has asked me for the company's website. It's also asked me for any information about the products or the services that the organization is involved in to bring to life the business. So I've answered all of the questions. Questions from the top: the ideal candidate, their motivations, the challenges, the less glamorous truths about the job that we're recruiting on, the context of the company, the proof points that would help us to be able to showcase it, the additional sources that we've got access to, and the mission that the candidate would go on. Now that I have all of this in my Word document from said template, I can go back to Nova and I can give Nova the prompt. And now Nova, having been built and trained by me with the prompt stack that you can download from aiforrecruiters.co.uk, there are, let me just double check the quantity, there are 12 prompts that layer by layer have built Nova's capability to generate sizzle packs. So the first thing that Nova is doing, Nova is reflecting back to me to say, this is my perceptions of the candidate that we are after, the human being that may be interested in this role as their definition of betterment, or their definition of new challenge, or their definition of interesting to pursue. We've got a profile overview for the individual. We've got a backstory for that person and their career context. We have their motivations and triggers. Core motivators, positive triggers, maybe negative triggers, things that would put them off, fears and beliefs that may revolve around their career, their engagement behavior, things they'll respond to, things that they won't, proof that they look for. We have the playbook for the recruiter on how to be able to engage with these people across multiple channels. And then we have a snapshot summary, which is our quick persona dashboard. If we're happy with this, and it says, please confirm, does this persona accurately reflect the candidate you want to attract, or would you like any aspect refined? Tone, level, motives, challenges, sector alignment. Once confirmed, I'll ask which single output you'd like next. So I'm going to say all good. And as I tell it, it's all good, the endorsement, it now asks me, what would you like me to choose? Would you like a discrete briefing pack / sizzle pack? Now imagine targeting people on LinkedIn and being able to send them a message to say, hey, I'm currently working on a role that I feel could trigger some curiosity for you because, and I tell them something about them that is more likely to be linked to a want rather than a need. Too many recruiters sell to need and assume need because they assume that the candidate would be interested in a pay rise, or you know, we trigger a want. We go for an emotional trigger. So as we send the message to say, hey, I'm currently working on a role I believe you could be curious to find out more about because, and I show them a reason that could create an emotional response, would you be interested in seeing a discrete briefing pack? Then you can make a balanced decision as to whether it's something you would like to hear more about, right? So as we get more responses to people going, yes, send me the pack. The discrete briefing pack is great for engaging with passive candidates. We could create a condensed version, and we could use the condensed version to be able to create mail shots. We can create a job advert. We can create a LinkedIn messaging campaign, and we can build a post. And you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we give it the instruction with the simple 1, please. And as I ask for 1, it's going to create the discrete briefing pack. As it builds out the discrete briefing pack, it is writing the briefing pack with the persona of the individual in mind. And the pack talks about, this is why you, this is what the mission is going to be. This is the genuine opportunity that sits there for somebody like you. Why this company? So as we start to share with them in a structured format, the reasons why we feel that this position in this organization for that persona of person feels to be of value, we can start to increase the level of engagement that we get. So we can start to be able to showcase to people it's safe to respond, you are understood, and you feel significant enough that this is worth the tiptoe, it's worth the step forward. And I'm working with people who are now achieving 60-70% response rates to outbound comms to profiles of individuals who meet the descriptor of the ICP, the ideal candidate profile, and it's helping them to be able to refine their searches. And it could be that we define two. We look for somebody who would be stepping up. We look for somebody who may be stepping sideways. We might look for somebody, big company to go to small company to go to big company. You can start to define different personas. And when you start to have mini campaigns pointed at different personas of candidates, your own sophistication increases the quality of those responses and helps you to be able to build a more engaged process for your customers. So here we've got the initial pack that we could now turn into a discrete briefing pack. We could combine with this information from the company's website. We could combine with this. We could go to their website and we could look at the videos that they're sharing as they're talking about the positioning of, in this instance, the vegan society and the certifications that they could offer to other manufacturing businesses of food and non-food items, and just ultimately sell the sizzle, right? So here it says, would you like any optional supporting assets? We could now ask it to create video talking points for recruiter screening calls, social carousel or teaser content, outreach hooks or subject lines. So if I asked it for a LinkedIn campaign, it understands the rules as to what good will look like on LinkedIn. You can see that the connection request here is no personalization, intentional and best practice, despite the fact that ChatGPT always thinks that a LinkedIn invitation should be full of personalization. Data tells us that that's not the right way to go. We've now got a voice note script. We can use the voice note to send to the people who accept our invitation. We've got a follow-up text-based message that we can send to those individuals. We could extend out the LinkedIn campaign. We could create an optional support asset. Give me an update to share the day I start the campaign. So if I do the right update when I begin the campaign, as I start to send messages to people, and they can see my most recent update is promoting the opportunity that I am referencing in the messages that I'm sending to them, recruitment becomes what recruitment really is. It is a campaign. It is a process. It is part marketing. It is part sales. It is part communication. And the better we get at being able to build campaigns on behalf of our clients, the more accurately we are heading towards filling those jobs. So I hope everyone's happy with how I'm describing this. This particular Sizzle Pack creator, I said it's probably one of the more sophisticated assistants that we've built. There is such an opportunity for you to be able to accelerate the process from like briefed to go to market by having a better, how do we begin the process of defining who am I targeting? What am I sharing? Why would they be interested? And those three steps are often the steps that are most lacking in the typical resourcing plan, because most people start with just been briefed. What's my Boolean string? And they're off doing a Boolean string, trying to find people who are the job description. And they start selling a job to what they think is a candidate. And they get low levels of response and engagement and start to think, you know what I need? I need more candidates. When the reality is what you probably need more than anything else is better engagement with the ones that you've already found. So I'm going to just bounce back to my screen for a moment so that I'm fresh with what it is that I want to be sharing with you. So I'm just going to remove that for a moment. Is everyone good with how I'm describing this? If you have questions either about the concept of the Sizzle Packs, if you have questions that revolve around the engagement, you have questions around its application, feel free to ask. If you have questions about its outputs, the outputs have been educated into the assistant with the inputs, and the inputs are the prompts. So for those of you who've not joined any of these sessions, If this is your first time here, hey, welcome. It's nice that you're here. We started this journey with 60 odd people that were in the hub for the AI4recruiters.co.uk. We now find ourselves where we have 280 people who are now part of the AI4recruiters.co.uk. If you're here and this is all creating some curiosity and maybe mild confusion, confusion is good, right? Because that is the stage before understanding. We're on a journey, right? So if you're looking at this and thinking, hey, this is interesting, I'm a little bit confused about what we're doing here, go to the website that's coming across the ticker, AI4recruiters.co.uk. Free to join, zero premium content. Everything in there is totally accessible. Go have a look at the introductory content that helps with this. Let me go back to my GPT. Let me show you what I wanted to show you. So I go back to here. I'm now going to open up my sidebar. I'm going to explore my GPTs. And you can see that there are GPTs here that I could subscribe to, but I want to go to mine. And I go to mine, I'm going to create a GPT. Hey, psst, if you've liked today's video so far, now's your opportunity to like, to subscribe, to make sure that you don't miss a single episode moving forward. Now let's get back to the video. And when I create that GPT, I'm going to use all of the prompts in the order that they've been laid out in the book that you can access at AI4recruiters.co.uk, because each one builds upon the previous. And as they build and they build and they build, what we start to create is our own version of the assistant. Now, quite a few times I've done these builds here and I've taken the prompt and I've uploaded it. I feel we've done that enough, people. There's been enough pieces of evidence in the historic videos that are there for you to know this, then this, then this, then this. Let me show you instead the prompts. Because if we move from this initial prompt, which is the prompt that I gave it to build that first pack, to this prompt, this is the core persona. When we build our assistants, we need to give it an identity. We need to give it a persona. We need to give it a thinking process. If we simply said, hey, you're Nova, create sizzle packs for me, I don't know what a sizzle pack is. So if you change it to, hey, Nova, help me to create better candidate engagement collateral, it may start to work it out, but it has to go and work it out from searching the internet, or worse, looking at Wikipedia. And so I need to give it an identity. So here you can see you are Nova, the sizzle pack creator, a hybrid of top performing resourcer, storyteller, and human behavior strategist. You transform static job descriptions into living invitations. You help recruiters craft engagement. We then have the background and worldview on behalf of Nova, a career history, a commercial orientation, the analytical bias that we want her to operate with, the tone of voice and communication rules. Now here, when we go into tone of voice and communication rules, this becomes the first place where you might want to consider doing your own bespoking, right? It could be, so here we've got tone and traits, warm, aspirational, grounded. Sounds like a trusted guide. You might want to change that to become your tone of voice. The very first session that we did, I shared how to be able to build your tone of voice and then how to be able to share it with the GPT. When you build your assistant, you might want to reinforce that it is your voice. You might want to create something that is a little more dedicated to your, I don't know, your top 3 clients. And you build one for each of your top 3 clients because they give you so much work. You want to be an extension of their business. So you start to build tone of voice on their behalf so it feels seamless. And as it feels seamless and you start to do outreach in their tone of voice and send them to landing pages in their tone of voice where they can watch videos of you interviewing people who work in their company, it all creates a stronger candidate experience. Those will be 2 popular words next year: candidate experience. They could end up becoming the reason why somebody chooses to do business with you, because of the candidate experience. So as we look at the tone traits, if you want to amend those, you amend those. What we have here is behavioral directives. And with the behavioral directives, things that we want them to do, things that we don't want them to do. No cliches. I don't want any of those rhetorical contrast statements, not this, but that. I don't want any hyperbole. I want clarity. I want credibility. It's got to outweigh the flair and the fluff. So this prompt is 479 words. And the investment in the 479 words means that when I start to get outputs from Nova, I'm confident that it will require less editing. So the investment at the front in the 479 words could save me hours in the future of having to refine outputs by giving redirection prompts. So if you build your version of Nova, you create your tone of voice, you then start to test it and it's not producing what you want. Don't redirect it in the chat. Go back to the edit. Go back to the edit to give it some more explicit instructions that revolve around tone of voice or revolve around behavioral directives. We've arrived at a point now where finally, people, when you say no M dashes, it understands what that means. So even the removal of the M dash, if you so desire to get rid of those things. So that is prompt number 2. When we look at prompt number 3, the product brief. This is the briefing to actually describe what the product is going to be. And how we're actually using this to be able to capture people's attention. And then as we go into prompt number 4, again, this is where there is bespokeness that is possible from your perspective. This is the sizzle pack structure, the discrete briefing document. You might want to call it something different. Go for it. You just need to be mindful of the consistency of the language. But if we've got a purpose for the pack and we can start to show the sections that we want to have, if you decide you want these sections in a different order, then you slice and dice them, right? If you decide that a certain section, you're like, Jeremy, I'm not sure I would have that section. Well, you do you. Take it out. Pop in a section that you would really want. We've really got to be thinking about the goal. Who are we seeking to engage? Why would they be interested? What would make them respond? So this definition here, the definition of the pack, why you, the mission, the opportunity, examples of phrasing, why pick this company, everything has examples. The examples are there so that it can learn from what good looks like by our definition rather than simply its own experiments. And as we build out the definition for the pack, again, these 756 words, you don't have to use exactly the 756 that I'm sharing, but you'd certainly want to be explicit to be able to show it. This is a good output. And then having defined those outputs, what we then have is a reasoning stack. And this is the prompt architecture for how Nova actually thinks. This isn't something that you would visibly see in terms of an output. You would see outcomes that are generated by this thinking. So this is like the system side of things. This is the back room. This is the engine. And as I share with it how I want it to build and stack these things, the motivational models that I want it to use to help to create the 5 emotional triggers that generate career movement for candidates, how to be able to extract stories from the original prompt, how to be able to turn that story into an emotionally laden reason for an individual to want to get involved. This is the power of the engine, right? And again, there is an opportunity for you to refine. Personally, I think this is bob on. But hey, I wrote it, you know. But as we look at these 1,020 words, we're now getting on towards 2,000 words of prompting, building the engine so that it requires minimal feedback and experimentation at the other end. And then having given it its identity and its intent, the internal system messages, the input deconstructions, combined with, let's go to prompt number 7, the rules for job adverts, the rules for an intake, the rules for video. We look at video output recommendations. It starts to craft for you the outreach and the templates of the personas to accelerate your ability to do the work, right? The picking up the phone, the crafting of the messages. It kind of looks after the messages. You can start to build your lists. The quality of the lists that you build is going to be far more representative of the success that you have than simply the text that you send. You build the right list and send the right message. Response rates will most definitely accelerate. So we've got I would consider this to be probably one of the more extensive libraries of prompts that sits inside here. All of these prompts, cut, paste, drop it in, test, cut, paste, drop it in, test. And as you keep testing it, it's making sure that as you build it prompt by prompt, the learning and its processing of things is falling in line with your expectation. So by the time we get to prompt 10, 11, 12, we will have prompted into the assistant somewhere in the region of 3,500 to 4,000 words. And having done all of the work to create those individual prompts from a journey of personal trial and error, I'm not going to suggest that what it is out of the box is perfect for you, but what I think it is out of the box is a strong wireframe that you could start to increase the personalization of and start to do something different with it. So I'm just taking to the chat. Yeah, if you've got questions for what I'm describing, if you've got questions about this assistant, if you've got questions about the process of build, ask. If you're here and last week you did Vox and you've got some questions about the outreach one, feel free to ask. I'm pausing for a moment to kind of reflect on the journey that we've been on. What I picture in my mind is that each time you come back and we do another assistant, you do the work to build it. You do the work to build it with the prompts that I've shared to start to identify, if I were to refine this, what would I do differently? And the moment that you go to refine it, what I would recommend that you do when you want to refine an assistant, let me go back to my GPT. If I go back to my GPT, he says, come on, GPT, this isn't the time to mess me about. So what I was going to say with my GPT, I think it's just having a little bit of a fit. Better. So if I go back to my version of Nova, the Sizzle Pack Creator, and at the top here I click edit the GPT. So if you want to make refinements, left-hand side for refinements, right-hand side for testing. If you're going to make a refinement and you've done the work to build it using all of the prompts that I've given to you, duplicate the GPT. So as I now duplicate the GPT, I now have Nova, the Sizzle Pack Creator copy. If I do a refinement and I start to create refinement after refinement, I still have the original version, which is out of the box as described with all of the prompts that I've given. Because it might be you do an amend and an amend and an amend, and then you're like, oh, how do I now do unamending? Unamending is quite challenging. You'll never quite get it back to exactly what it was because it will have shadow memories. Make the copy, do the amend, do another amend, save that with create, and then test it. And if you feel that the second version is better than the first, keep the first as like the blueprint. Keep the blueprint so that you can then create another version on behalf of a new client and start to use that as the wireframe to duplicate. Much better than always having to start from fresh. I've had messages from some people who were building Lyra and were building Orion, and they were on their third version of trying to build it because they'd created their own amends and it started to get a bit wobbly and they had to start all over again. Build the stack as recommended with the 12 prompts, copy it, then start your own experiments, amendments, and keep it as your blueprint for future versions. Everyone happy with how I'm describing that? So let me remove this. So the question that's here, am I right that you could build each of these agents in isolation and there isn't a link between them? 100%. This is the difference between a project and an assistant. So when we build an assistant in the way that we're doing a custom GPT here, the assistant has got no leakage into other custom GPTs that we build. If we did a project, so some things I recommend as a project, when we do a project, the chats will refer to each other. It will learn from chat 3, from what happened in chat 1, chat 2. So if you build a project, that is because this is intended to be a continuous learning device based upon every conversation. When we build it as the assistant, the custom GPT, if I have a single chat with it to say, hey, build me this sizzle pack, and I then start another chat, it won't accidentally bring things through from the vegan society to then share it in another thing, which it would do if it was in a project. So yes, there is zero infection. If we stay in the same chat, we build the assistant, and then we start a chat, we do one for one company, and then we say, let's do another one. We're now in the same stream. That stream will start to create hallucinations if the stream gets longer and longer and longer and longer, because it's trying to hold on to more stuff. And that stream will also start to self-pollinate and will accidentally pull stuff through. I've not found any infections of my custom GPTs talking to each other or creating inferences. They tell us that it won't do it. My practical observation is it definitely doesn't infect and pollinate. Is everyone else good? Does anyone else have any questions for me about these builds? So there are builds that exist that if you're here for the first time, we go back to here. Every video, every LinkedIn Live is here. All of the downloads and the resources are there. I simply go to the resource, Field Guide to Better Prompting, How to Educate My GPT. Start with that. The question that I was asked about a project or assistance, custom GPTs, projects. I talk in the first session about the differences between the two and the times when I would and I wouldn't use them. And then these pieces of content, with our last session taking place next week on Wednesday, where we'll build Myra the Desk Coach. And Myra the Desk Coach is going to be the first one that we build where you engage with it using your voice. So we're going to use the voice capabilities of ChatGPT so that we actually have a real-time conversation with an assistant who is there to coach you to better quality outcomes, whatever those outcomes are, right? And for me, it's my favorite of all of the assistants that we're going to build. It's just such a useful thing to be able to have, that you could be driving the car and you could talk to the coach. You could be on a dog walk with your AirPods in. You could be talking to the coach, and it's often easier to converse than it is to interpret, type, message back, read, interpret, type. So yes, the thing that we do next week that will revolve around using your voice to access good quality coaching, I think it's going to be great, but that's my biased opinion, right? Could I drop off all of the prompts into an agent en masse rather than each prompt at a time? Matthew, I wouldn't do them en masse. Partly because they're so big. If you did them en masse, it would become too big and it would need to become a document that you upload, like the 57-page document that we uploaded for Vox, that was the assessment of good quality outreach in 2025, what works, what doesn't. That was a big bit of deep research. The reason that I do it layer by layer is I want to be able to share the layer and make sure that it understands. When I built mine, you build yours. It may have slightly different models that it's using at that moment, in the same way that we're using different versions of Google. So it might ask you different questions, have a different interpretation. So every second prompt that you upload, Matthew, just ask it the question, could you reflect back to me your understanding of what we're doing here? Or could you give me your interpretation of that last prompt and how you're going to use it? And when it reflects back to you, say, this is my understanding, and you endorse that, it kind of rubber stamps into it. Good behaviors, good process. And then you can test it on the right hand side. And every time you upload a prompt, you test it, then click save. Because if you upload another prompt and it doesn't quite get it, you've saved your work. And therefore, if you don't save that, you simply exit and come back in, it won't it won't consume the prompt that it misinterpreted, and you can have another go at presenting it the right way. Is that all right? Everybody else good? I've really enjoyed these sessions, people. I appreciate that your interest may start from a position of curiosity. Encourage yourself to experiment, encourage yourself to do stuff with it, right? I've been asked a few times, how did I learn this? What was my background before this? I'm just a very curious person who approaches things with a very logical level of understanding. And my curiosity and my understanding of good sales and good process and good recruitment means that the application of it within the GPT, I know what I want it to produce. Do you see what I mean? If I went to it and said, hey, create for me a recipe for lasagna, if I'm not good at cooking lasagna, I have to have blind faith that what it decided to recommend to me, that is the thing. And I could go, okay, that sounds great, and then go do it. You know, I've got clarity when I'm using this LLM, when I'm using a chat GPT. It is my apprentice. I have to teach it what to do. I don't want it to go and learn it from somebody else that I don't know, or to aggregate net average from what everybody else is doing and then present that back to me. Yes. And thank you, Natalie. I appreciate that. I'm doing this with sincerity because I feel this is a subject where there is confusion, and I feel that that confusion gets enhanced rather than undone by too many people. I don't know what to say about that. So I'm just like, hey, look, this is what it does. This is how it does it. This is why it does it. Here are some prompts. Here's a platform that you can access all of these things. Go do something with it. And if you like what I do and you like the outputs, then I'm super pleased. If you like what I do and you like the outputs and you would like the opportunity to work more closely with me, I'd be super pleased. But ultimately, I'm here to help people to build a meaningful set of assistants that could support them and the consultants in their business at a net level of investment of $20 per person, because that's what it is for the premium ChatGPT account. So good. I'm feeling as though I'm spent. I've shown it to you. I gave it the prompt. It produced some outputs. I've shown you the prompts that I'm sharing. I've signposted where you can go get those prompts. I've answered questions that have been asked. If you have other questions, let me go back to this again. If I go back to this again and we look at the platform back in the AI for recruiters.co.uk, up at the top here, right-hand side, discussions. Here are the discussions that I've started, others have commented on. I'll be there. I'll answer any questions that people may have when they're there. The resources will be uploaded to this platform over the course of this afternoon. We have to wait for the recording from StreamYard for this LinkedIn Live to index. We'll then share the video. We'll share the PDFs, and it's with you to go do something with it. So much respect for everyone who's chosen to invest in themselves. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attendance. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate you, full stop. Have a great rest of your day. If you have questions about it, go to the AI for recruiters.co.uk, start a discussion or join in with one of the discussions that's there. I'll be there this afternoon. So if you do have anything that you want to know, I'm happy to help, do you know? So this is me saying thank you, goodbye, enjoy. See you next week when we build the final assistant, which is the voice operated coach. Coach for you, coach for your team. See you later, people. Bye-bye. Hey, thank you for watching. If you want to continue to get access to more high quality training and coaching ideas to help you to stay inspired as a recruiter, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, and check out the description below for relevant links to tools, frameworks, and other ideas to keep you moving forward. And I look forward to seeing you on another one very soon.